My name's Hawke Lawshe from Vintage Technologies up in Kalispell, Montana. This is my 1981 alternator shovel head named Azureus. It's the Latin word for real blue, or pure blue anyway. The basic concept of the bike was to make like a running cutaway. Everybody in like shop classes and stuff, they always had a exposed engine with a little dial on it, and you could crank it and turn it, and it was like interesting. Figured it'd be really neat to see one that actually ran, so kind of started with that. The cone shovel head's kind of a more popular engine, so trying to figure out a new take on one, you know, was what kind of motivated me for it. And basically cut open all of the cam chest, exposed the cam chest, the valve train, windowed the rocker arms, split those. Again, to kind of see more of the base internals of the engine, I removed the cooling fins, a great deal of cooling fins, so you could kind of see the inner bone structure of the combustion chamber and cylinders and whatnot. Molded all the engine cases. Molded the carburetor on it. The transmission is again kind of one of the ugly duckling Calpi 4-speeds. They had a short number of years that Harley built a 4-speed with a shift mechanism called the Calpi, and it was very lackluster, you know, not very desirable transmission. And so this is a part that this is the actual prototype for what I call the cow jockey. I'm going to put those into production soon. It actually moved from 24 parts to 5, so it actually cleaned it up, made a much better chopper scene thing there. The transmission was brought closer to the engine and then raised up 4.5 inches. I removed the seat post out of the frame. And cutting all that stuff away, just chose to go with a single hoop frame with like a suspended spar hardtail on it. Made it all one piece, molded the tank, seat, and fender all together. There's no oil tank. The engine uses 2 ounces of oil just in the case. The rest is like a grease derived from aerospace industry. So it's pretty fancy grease that I use on the cams and whatnot. There's no oil pump, there's no oil anything. It's the same concept as like a Briggs & Stratton lawnmower engine. It's just a dipper. There's a small amount in the case that just kind of lubricates the connecting rods and splash a little on piston skirts, and that's about it, you know. It's not really a longevity-minded thing. It was kind of built to be more of a interesting, you know, art piece, you know, but I'm not really a big fan of like crazy looking bikes that just were never intended to start or run at all for any reason, you know. So it does run, it does ride, it has a full lighting system. It has an electric brake that I incorporated off of a boat trailer, basically. In doing that, I was able to eliminate all of my brake controls and everything. There's just a small button up here on the handlebar. That's the rear brake. And then I started realizing that the only control that I was going to have on the bike was going to be a clutch, like lever or pedal or something. So I modified an EMF auto clutch for it, and then that way I was able to eliminate any levers or pegs or anything like that. So it was really an easy way to clean all of that stuff up, you know. I guess I shouldn't say an easy way, it was a pain in the butt, but
so your clutch will actually just, it's like engages at a certain
it's like a centrifugal clutch, yeah, just give it a little gas and go, you know. It still has a manual shifter, the 4-speed, but you just drop it in gear and then give it in gas and go, and you could pull up to a stop sign in 4th gear with this thing if you wanted to, and just put your brake on and stop without having to activate a clutch, you know. There was a lockout that I had to build, and we'll see it on the other side of the bike, that you actually turn it to engage the clutch pack so that the kicker will actually function. Otherwise it just free spools and you just going to be kicking a dead leg. And that's this lever here. So basically engages the clutch so that the bike can get kick-started. And then once the bike's running, you disengage that, and there you go. It was kind of cool to put that little arm in there, because after exposing all of the cam components and the valve train, it kind of brought me into, I needed to open something up in the transmission. So I was able to cut all of this housing out of the transmission, and then I machined all of the kicker assembly and the throw-out assembly. A lot of one-off machining here. This is a one-off piece. And getting rid of all the oil, all the original needle bearings and bronze seals, or bronze bushings and everything, were eliminated, and use double row sealed ball bearings and everything. The lifter wheels are actually off of a skateboard, so that was kind of the only bearing that would fit. The bike has 0 brass components at all. All of the brass components in the carburetor, they've all been flash nickel plated. We did it at my wife's jewelry store. Normally all these pieces are brass and whatnot, and sometimes that looks is a nice little accent, but when there's only a couple of them and kind of a sea of blue and chrome, it wasn't really going to cut the mustard. So it kind of went to a lot of painstaking little chores to. It's those fine details, you know, in my book that really set things off. You know. A lot of little things. The brake drum, generally these are a riveted component, the sprocket, and we're locked into a 51 tooth gearing. So this is another part that we're going to put into production also. This is a 48 tooth so that older bikes can run modern gearing. Save them on a little bit, lowers their engine RPMs, increases their highway speeds and whatnot. The electric brake has a small digital actuator up in here. Voltage regulator, all the electronics are housed beneath the seat. Had to do a lot of wiring just to get up to the brake button. A lot of extras that otherwise wouldn't have been there, but these are all flush zerts right here. The bike can be greased on all the rocker arms, and then all of the lifter bodies have zerts in them as well. And then everything else is just put on kind of like with a little pin syringe and put it in there, and it slings a little bit, and then you wipe it up, and you can actually get I don't know, a lot of running out of it without actually making a big mess. You know what I mean? So yeah. The front end is from a friend of mine, Dalton Walker, Sick Dalton, and it's a 40 over, and we knife edged all of the rear of the tubing, all of the knife edge in it, and then I carried that on through with the frame. And then the wheels are they're kind of derived from like the Hallcraft Invaders, but most Invaders were all either round spoke or square spoke. And with the theme of all the knife edge tubing, we carried the knife edging onto all the spokes of the wheels. So, man, as soon as this project started, I kind of realized that I was kind of throwing a lot of the rules out the door. So, I guess at some point I was trying to incorporate the pipes into this kind of more open area here. And that was the original part of the frame design, was to have the exhaust there. But then as I started realizing it was going to really make a lot of things busy, and with I kind of wanted to retain the skeletal look of everything, so making them short and not following rules, I was able to just point them out the front. And it actually worked as like a small chin fairing, you know. And in my opinion, real choppers have fishtails, so they're just upside down fishtails, you know. So it kind of worked out in that, you know. Some parts of these builds are like they build themselves, you know. They're a gimme. They just want to be built that way. Other parts are more challenging to figure out a solution, or the routing and planning of it can get a little bit hectic. But the pipes actually kind of just fell into place, and it was like I did a light mock-up on them, and just really liked it, went for it, you know. The seat was done by a friend of mine, Derek, with Exotic Customs. I did all the paint work myself. The headlight is from a friend of mine, Andy, in Finland, from Flying Choppers. There's only 2 of those in the world. That was a hand sand-casted piece. The mount is knife-edged as well. Ran the throttle cable through a tube that I welded into the tank so that I didn't have to have any clips or clamps for the throttle cable. Yeah, it started life as a 1981 bagger, so it's actually come a long way. It was actually bought from a widow of a friend of ours that had passed, and the one thing the widow actually was kind of adamant about it when we explained that we were going to be building a custom bike out of it, is that she wanted it painted blue, and she wanted us to make sure that put some of his ashes in the paint somewhere. And so, yeah, we have his ashes actually in the paint here, you know. So it's kind of we're sentimental and little stuff like that, you know, superstitious. So it helps with a lot of stuff. We've had a tremendous amount of luck with this bike. Our wins in Born Free actually got us an invite to the Moon Eyes show in Yokohama, Japan in December. So we're pretty excited for that show also. And then of course we're in Michael Lichter's exhibit, Motorcycles Art today. So it's already doing its job pretty good, you know.